With the bromance officially over between Donald Trump and Elon Musk, it is unlikely we'll see both of those gentlemen touring the Fort Knox facility to see the gold. But there's something much more important that has just been introduced as legislation in the Congress with regards to the U.S. gold. Let's talk about it and the huge problem that it presents as we explore. That's right, a live stream tour of Fort Knox. Many of us were salivating, pun intended, at the prospect that it could happen, but then other priorities came along. And that's part of the problem with what I'm going to be talking about later in this video with regards to this U.S. gold audit legislation that's been introduced. Before we get down, I want to remind you of channel sponsor Summit Metals. They sell gold, and you can find some good deals over there. They have a sale on gold regularly, so check them out. They've got great service, and they're constantly improving their website and their functionality, as well as new initiatives there. Check them out at summitmetals.com. Now, this is very interesting what's been introduced on June the 6th, 2025, and therein lies some of the problem. But let's get into the positive aspect of this bill. I'm going to be referencing a piece here from Sound Money Defense League, which was instrumental in making some of this happen. As U.S. debt soars and foreign central banks stockpile gold, 4 members of Congress have introduced a bill to require the first comprehensive audit of America's gold reserves in decades. And you know what? It's about time, and it's a shame that this even has to be done and introduced, because in reality, the actual audit that we get, or report we get each year, is really a laughing stock when you think about it. It's sponsored by Representatives Thomas Massie, Troy Nils, Addison McDowell, and Warren Davidson, and the Gold Reserve. They have introduced the Gold Transparency Act, which is H.R. 3795, and it would require a full assay, inventory, and audit of all the United States gold holdings. Importantly, H.R. 3795 will also require full disclosure of all transactions involving America's gold, including any purchases, sales, loans, pledges, leases, swaps, and other encumbrances dating back 50 years. Such activities have not been publicly disclosed. I tell you what, that is brilliant that they put that provision in the bill too, because it could very easily be missed. And, especially now with what they're talking about with the senator of Wyoming, Cummings, I believe, who wants to revalue gold and use it to buy Bitcoin. I think that is a grave mistake. Americans deserve transparency and accountability from the institutions that underpin our currency, said Representative Thomas Massie, who I think is spearheading this bill. It has been literally decades since actual inventories and assays have been conducted with respect to the U.S. gold reserve, and the Department of Treasury has lost records as well as failed to account for many occasions when vault compartments were inexplicitly opened and resealed without new audits. There is a seal that is a specific seal that's on those vaults. And so that's good. That's wow that they're recognizing that and wants to get answers. And that's according to Stephen Gleason. And the lack of proper audits of America's gold is highly alarming and totally unacceptable. Such shoddy procedures would never pass muster in the private sector, continued Gleason, whose company operates a maximum security gold and silver vault in Idaho that is twice the size of the U.S. bullion depository at Fort Knox. Even if a credible audit had been conducted several decades ago, auditing is never a one-and-done affair. That's exactly right. I mean, most of us, we take stock of our gold and silver stacks, I'm sure, frequently enough to know, hey, where is it? We want to see it. We want to know that it's still there at the very least. The gold audit bill comes in an environment where some nations are growing concerned about their gold stored in the United States, or who prefer to hold their gold domestically. Leaders in Germany are calling for the repatriation of their gold held in the custody of the the Federal Reserve Bank of New York, a story I covered on this channel not too long ago. An inquiry into America's sound money stockpile is more relevant than ever, and given an inflationary environment where $37 trillion of U.S. federal debt looms large, and given that many central banks have been accumulating gold at record rates over the last few years. J.P. Cortez, executive director of the Sound Money Defense League, said that now was the time for transparency surrounding America's gold, as gold is the ultimate form of money recognized the world over. Safeguarding the U.S. Treasury Department's holdings of the yellow metal is very much a national security issue. It sure is. Only a thorough audit, not a public relations stunt, such as the live walkthrough, as Elon Musk and others proposed, will suffice, he concluded. And he's exactly right about that. Although I tell you, a public relations stunt to look at the gold through a live stream is extremely valuable in bringing attention to the matter. So I would not necessarily balk at that. I think anything is better than nothing. And I think that certainly any more attention to gold is welcome. So I was all for this live streaming of this, but obviously that fell by the wayside because of, well, what has happened not only very recently with the straining of the relationship between Donald Trump and Elon Musk, but also because of Donald Trump focusing on this big, beautiful bill, which is still being debated in the Congress right now, which is a massive priority for him, as well as trying to negotiate an end to the Russia-Ukrainian conflict, which is now that negotiating has come to probably an end now with recent developments there. But nonetheless, that's part of the reason why this is why there is a big mistake with this proposing of this legislation right now. I'm going to get into that in a moment, but let's get through what this is all about here. This situation requires far more than a fun one-day field trip by politicians to Fort Knox and other U.S. Treasury vaults. To fulfill their obligations under the Gold Reserve Transparency Act, the Government Accountability Office and external independent auditors would gain access to any depository or other public or private depositories where gold reserves are kept, as well as related records. The process is expected to take up to a year to complete and will be repeated every 5 years. Now, Representative Massey has frequently been a leader on issues related to sound money, and that's true. I've followed some of Massey's legislative efforts in the past. I think it's great. And the problem is he's kind of been the lone wolf on this. The fact that this has other sponsors right directly with it is a good thing, but it needs also co-sponsors as well and others to rally behind it. Here's the big problem with it. I've not read the full text of the bill. I'm going to take their word for it that it's comprehensive and the language is as such, which is likely, given Thomas Massey, going to be relatively simple, straightforward, and to the point. I'm going to take him for his word on that. The problem I have with it, and it's a huge one, is timing. Absolutely horrible timing in so many different ways. The timing is so bad. In fact, it could not be any worse of a timing for such a thing that needs to be done. This is absolutely crucial and it's such an important bill that I absolutely cannot believe that they put it out today or on June the 6th, which would be yesterday by the time you see this video. I think it's crazy. And no one is going to be talking about this except for the Sound Money Defense League and me. I think we might be the only two entities that are going to be talking about this legislation. Why? Because of the big, beautiful bill and the rift between Donald Trump and Elon Musk, which was the foundation for a live streaming of the gold vaults. Of course, that's no longer going to be happening. But nonetheless, it needs to happen, and it needs to be something and timed in such a way where it can be the focus. And of course, there's never going to be a totally slow news day with regards to this administration. They're doing so much, and Donald Trump really could be the one that can help spearhead this and talk about it, and maybe could work with Thomas Massey to time the public relations aspect of it and introduce it with the direction of Donald Trump. But that's not going to happen because Thomas Massie has really teed off the president because he will not compromise on the big, beautiful bill. And of course, I understand why, and that was part of the whole reason why there was a rift between Elon Musk and Donald Trump was over this big, beautiful bill. And honestly, I see both sides to it. I certainly see the side of Thomas Massie and Elon Musk over the grand scheme of things with regards to the ideological principle of creating debt. But nonetheless, you're working with essentially trying to work with a very slim majority in the Congress, and that is going to be a problem. Trying to get everybody to come together on something, it's very difficult. But even no matter what your feelings are on principle and practicality on that, there is a rift between Thomas Massie and Donald Trump, which just means that he's not really going to be making bedfellows to make this thing happen anytime soon. It's going to be nobody's priority in Congress. Why? Because the bill is now in the Senate, and they're going to make changes to it, which means it's going to be coming back to the House. No one's going to be thinking about this bill. H.R. 3795 will languish, and it will be languish where nobody will talk about it. It won't go to committee or anything. It's going to just be stuck. It's so important. This is such an important thing that you've got to be able to provide a good timing measure. And no, there's never going to be a perfect time to do it. But this is the absolutely worst time to do such a thing. Because the focus is not on the goal. The focus is on this bill. And until that bill is done and until everything subsides and cooler heads prevail, well, nobody can get their head around anything else at this point in time. I love the idea of sound money principles that they do, and I also like the idea of an audit for a very complete and full audit of the reserves of our gold, not only at Fort Knox but in other places too. It's long overdue. But I just think the timing of it is such a point now where that if this thing gets shut down very quickly, any other measures that may come up may just be dismissed on whole cloth. That's what I worry about here. Nonetheless, we'll see how it plays out. Very interesting indeed, and I love the idea, just don't like the timing. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comment section down below. Hope you found this video informative, insightful, and educational. Would like to extend a multitude of gratitude to each and every one of you for taking the time to watch, and encourage you to please rate, share, comment, and subscribe.